I want to start by telling you about my grandfather, because he said something to me once that I didn't understand until years later. And it's the whole reason I'm doing this reading today. When I was maybe 16, I was complaining to him about a friend who had let me down, really let me down, in a way that stung. And I was waiting for him to be outraged on my behalf, to take my side, to be angry with me. Instead, he got very quiet and he stirred his coffee for a while, and then he said, "You know, life doesn't usually announce its tests. It just sets them down quietly in front of people and watches what they pick up. Your friend just took a test they didn't know they were taking. And now you know something about them that you couldn't have known any other way." I didn't get it then. I was 16. I wanted vengeance, not philosophy. But I've thought about that sentence 1,000 times since. Life doesn't announce its tests. Because he was right. The most important tests we ever face aren't the loud, obvious ones. They're the quiet moments, where no one's watching, where there's no scoreboard, where a person reveals exactly who they are precisely because they don't realize they're being measured. And the people around them find out the truth, not from what the person said they'd do, but from what they actually did when the moment came and they thought it didn't count. And when I sat down with the cards today, that's the energy that came roaring up. Because there's someone connected to a lot of you who was handed exactly that kind of test. A quiet one, an unannounced one, a test about you, about how they treat you, value you, show up for you when it actually mattered. And loves, they failed it. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in a way that revealed something true. Hi, my loves. It's Elena. Welcome back to Elena Tarot. And I'll be honest, this is a more sober reading than I usually bring you. Not a sad one exactly, but an honest one. Because sometimes the most loving thing the universe can do is let someone fail a test in front of you, so that you finally get to see them clearly. And I think that's what's happened here. So if you've had this nagging sense that someone showed you who they really were recently, that a moment came and they didn't rise to it the way you hoped, stay with me. Because heaven set that moment down in front of them on purpose. And what they did with it tells you everything. Let me shuffle. We're going to look at the test, why it was given, how they failed it, and, most importantly, what that failure is meant to free you to see. The test that was set down, first card down, and it shows me the nature of the test itself, what exactly was being measured. The card is the Seven of Pentacles. And the Seven of Pentacles is the card of a long, patient investment, finally reaching the moment of harvest. It's the card of someone standing in front of something they've tended for a long time. And the question being asked is, what are you going to do now that it's ready? And here's what the test was, loves. You were the investment. Not in a cold way, I mean that you had poured real time, real care, real patience into this connection. You showed up. You gave it room to grow. You were loyal to it, sometimes more loyal than it deserved. And the test that heaven set down in front of this person was simple, even though they didn't know it was a test. Now that this woman has shown you who she is, now that she's tended this thing so faithfully, are you going to recognize the harvest in front of you? Are you going to value what she's grown? Or are you going to walk past it like it's nothing? That was the test. It was a test of recognition. Could they see what they had? Could they value the loyal, patient, real thing standing right in front of them? Because the Seven of Pentacles isn't about whether the harvest is good, the harvest was good. You made sure of that. It's about whether the person looking at it has the eyes to recognize its worth. And that's the most quietly revealing test there is. Because some people simply cannot see value until it's gone. They walk right past the ready harvest, bored, distracted, taking it for granted and only realize what it was after someone else has taken it, or after the season has passed and it's rotted on the vine. Here's the practical version of this test, because it plays out constantly. Picture someone who's been a genuinely good, steady partner to another person for a long time, reliable, warm, present, and then a moment comes where that good partner needs something, needs to be chosen, needs to be prioritized, needs the other person to finally step up and match the investment that's been so one-sided for so long. That is the harvest moment. That's the test. And you find out everything about a person by whether, in that moment, they rise to meet the loyalty they've been receiving, or whether they keep treating it as an endless free resource they never have to reciprocate. That was the test put in front of your person. Hold that, because the next cards are going to show you exactly how they answered it. Comment the harvest was ready if you can feel that you tended this connection faithfully, that you made yourself into a harvest worth recognizing, and the only question was whether they'd have the eyes to see it. And I want to add something about why this particular kind of test is so revealing, because it ties into the whole title. A test of recognition is the truest test of love. There is truer than a test of passion, truer than a test of attraction, truer than almost anything. Because anyone can want the new, the exciting, the shiny. That takes nothing. The wanting of new is the easiest emotion in the world. It requires zero character. But to recognize the value of something steady, something you already have, something that's been faithfully present, that takes a developed soul. It takes maturity. It takes the capacity to see beyond novelty into worth. And that's precisely why heaven uses recognition as the test. Loves. Because it separates the people who are capable of real, lasting love from the people who are only capable of chasing the next bright thing. Passion fades for everyone. Eventually, it's supposed to. That's normal. What determines whether a love survives is whether, when the passion settles, the person can still recognize and value the treasure in front of them. Your person was given the chance to show whether they had that capacity. And the test revealed the answer. Hold that distinction, because it's going to matter all the way through this reading. They didn't fail a test of attraction. They failed a test of recognition. And recognition is the one that actually predicts whether someone can love you for a lifetime. Next card, how the test was disguised okay. Second card, and this one shows me how the test arrived. Because the whole point of a heaven-sent test is that it doesn't look like a test. It looks like an ordinary moment. The card is the Page of Pentacles. And the Page of Pentacles is the card of a small, quiet, easily overlooked opportunity, something modest on the surface, that's actually a doorway to something much bigger. And this tells me something crucial about the test your person failed. It didn't look important. That's exactly why it was such a true test. Heaven didn't hand them some grand, obvious, dramatic crossroads with flashing lights that said this is the moment that decides everything. If it had, anyone could pass people rise to obvious occasions all the time, because they know they're being watched. The real test came disguised as something small. An ordinary day, a modest request, a quiet moment where you needed them, or where you gave them a chance to show up, or where a simple choice revealed where their priorities actually lived. It looked like nothing. And that's precisely what made it everything. Because here's the deep truth the Page of Pentacles is pointing to. Character is revealed in the small moments, not the big ones. Anyone can show up for the wedding, the funeral, the emergency, the moments where the whole world is watching, and the stakes are obvious. Who a person really is comes out in the unremarkable Tuesday. The little requests they could easily honor or easily blow off. The small kindness no one would notice the absence of. The quiet chance to choose you that came with no audience and no obvious consequence. That's where the truth lives. And that's where this person got tested. And that's where they revealed themselves. Let me make this practical, because you've seen this principle 100 times, even if you never named it. Think about how you can date someone for months and learn more about their character from how they treat a waiter than from anything they ever say to you directly. Or how you learn more about a friend from whether they remember the small thing you mentioned once than from any grand gesture. Or how the real test of a person isn't whether they show up when you're at your best and everything's fun. It's whether they show up on the boring, hard, unglamorous day when there's nothing in it for them. The big moments are performances. The small moments are the truth. And Heaven, being wise, always tests people in the small moments because that's where they can't perform, can't fake it, can't rise to an occasion they don't even know is an occasion. Your person was tested in exactly that kind of moment, and they had no idea it counted, which is exactly why their answer was so honest. And here's something I want you to really sit with, because it might be the most useful thing in this whole reading. The fact that the test was disguised means their failure was honest. And an honest failure is actually a precious thing for you to have received, even though it hurts. Think about it if heaven had announced the test. If a giant sign had appeared saying treat her right now or lose her forever, your person might have passed. They might have rallied, performed, done the right thing because they knew they were being watched and didn't want to fail in front of an audience. And then you'd have gotten a false positive. You'd have gotten a passing grade that wasn't real, a performance of love instead of the genuine article, and you might have built years of your life on top of that performance before discovering it was hollow. The disguise test protected you from exactly that. Because they didn't know they were being measured, what they showed you was real. It was who they actually are when they think no one's keeping score, which is who they'd actually be. Day after day, year after year, in a life with you. So, as painful as the failure is, thank the disguise. It saved you from a beautiful lie. It showed you the truth early, while you could still do something with it. Next card, the exact reason they failed, okay. Third card, and this is the heart of it, the specific reason they failed the test. And I want you to brace just slightly, because this one is honest. And honesty sometimes stings before it sets you free. The card is the Four of Cups. And the Four of Cups is the card of someone so absorbed in their own dissatisfaction, their own head, their own sense of, is this all there is? That they completely miss the beautiful thing being offered to them right in front of their face. And that loves is the reason they failed. Not cruelty, not malice. Something almost more frustrating than malice, they couldn't see you because they were too busy looking past you. The Four of Cups shows a person sitting with three full cups right in front of them, arms crossed, gazing off into the distance, convinced that whatever they're missing must be somewhere else, never noticing the fourth cup being extended to them, never appreciating the three they already have. That's the posture your person was in. You were right there. The harvest was ready, the offering was extended, and they were looking over your shoulder, distracted by some vague sense that something better, newer, more exciting must be out there. They failed the test of recognition because they were too busy chasing a more that doesn't exist to value the enough that was real. This is the reason, and I want to name it precisely so it lands. They failed because of their own restlessness, because of a chronic inability to be satisfied, to be present, to recognize a good thing as a good thing, instead of always scanning the horizon for something better. And here's the painful, clarifying truth, in that it was never about your worth. You were worthy. The harvest was good. The cup was full. They failed the test not because you came up short, but because they were the kind of person who can't see what's right in front of them. That's a flaw in their vision, not in your value. And that distinction is the whole gift of this reading. Let me give you the practical picture, because this kind of person is everywhere, and you need to recognize the pattern. It's the person who's never satisfied with any job, any city, any partner, always convinced the grass is greener, always restless, always certain that happiness is one upgrade away. They leave good things constantly, not because the good things were bad, but because they're chasing a feeling that no external thing can give them. And being in a connection with someone like that is heartbreaking, because no matter how good you are, no matter how much you offer, it's never going to register as enough, not because you aren't enough, but because nothing registers as enough to a person whose dissatisfaction lives inside them. You could have been perfect. You may well have been perfect. It wouldn't have mattered, because they were looking at the horizon the whole time, not at you. That's the Four of Cups. That's why they failed. And it was never, ever about you not being enough. And I want to say something compassionate but clear eyed about this restlessness, because understanding it fully is part of what sets you free. The chronic dissatisfaction this person carries isn't really about you. And here's the thing, it isn't really about any of the things they keep leaving. Either, it's a wound they carry inside themselves, an inability to feel that anything is ever enough, which means it travels with them everywhere they go. They will chase the more beyond you, and they'll find it. And within a few months, it'll go gray and ordinary too, and they'll start scanning the horizon again. Because the problem was never the cup in front of them, the problem is that they have a hole in them that no cup can fill. And this matters for you to understand, because part of you might be tempted to think, but maybe if I'd been just a little more exciting, a little more interesting, a little newer, I could have held their attention. No, you couldn't have. Nobody could. There is no version of you exciting enough to satisfy a person whose dissatisfaction is internal. The fault was never in your offering, it was in their fundamental inability to be satisfied by any offering. Releasing the fantasy that you could have been enough to fix an unfixable restlessness is one of the most freeing things you'll do. You were never auditioning for a role you could win. The role didn't exist. Comment it wasn't my worth if you needed to hear that, if you've been quietly carrying the belief that you weren't enough, when the truth is they simply couldn't see what was right in front of them. Next card. What they threw away without realizing. Okay. Fourth card. And this one shows the cost of their failure, what they actually forfeited when they failed that test, even though they didn't feel the weight of it at the time. The card is the Ten of Cups. And the Ten of Cups is the card of complete emotional fulfillment, lasting love, harmony, the warm and whole life that two people can build together when they both show up for it. And here's the gut punch of this card appearing here. That's what was on the table. That's what the test was actually offering. When heaven sets down a test like this, it's not arbitrary cruelty, it's a doorway. Passing the test would have opened into something real. The Ten of Cups is what your person was being offered the chance to build with you. If only they'd recognized the harvest. If only they'd seen the cup being extended. If only they'd been present enough to value what was right in front of them. This wasn't a small thing they fumbled. They fumbled the whole future. The warm, lasting, fulfilling life that could have been, that's what slipped through their fingers when they failed to see you clearly. And the truly haunting part, the part the Ten of Cups whispers, is this. They don't fully realize yet what they lost. That's the nature of the Four of Cups failure, the restless. Can't see what's in front of them person doesn't feel the loss in the moment. They walk away from the ready harvest thinking there's a better one around the corner. It's only later, sometimes much later, that the weight of it lands. When the better thing they were chasing turns out to be a mirage. When they look back and finally understand that the fullness they kept scanning the horizon for was sitting right there in the cup they refused to drink from. That realization is coming for them. It just hasn't fully arrived yet. Here's the practical reality of this, and it's one of the more sobering truths about people. Some people genuinely cannot value a thing until they've lost it. The loss is the only language their heart understands. You can give them the whole Ten of Cups, hand it to them gift wrapped, and they'll set it down distractedly and wander off. And it's only the absence of it, felt later, that finally teaches them what it was. It's the person who doesn't appreciate their health until they're sick, their home until they've left it, their good partner until that partner is happily with someone else. Your person is in the early chapter of exactly that story. They had the Ten of Cups in their hands. They failed the test of seeing it. And the lesson, the brutal, clarifying lesson, is being delivered to them slowly, in the form of an absence that's going to get louder and louder until they finally understand what they walked past. And I want to gently prepare you for something, because it follows directly from this card and it'll protect you when it happens. There is a very real chance that, somewhere down the road, once the absence has gotten loud enough, once the better thing they were chasing has revealed itself as a mirage, once the Ten of Cups they fumbled finally comes into focus in the rearview mirror, they will come back. They'll reach out. They'll say they finally see it now. They'll tell you they realize what they had. And I need you to understand the nature of that return before it happens, so it doesn't catch you off guard and pull you back into a loop. Because here's the hard truth: someone realizing your value after they've lost it is not the same as someone who was capable of valuing it while they had it. The first is just the pain of loss, talking it's them missing the comfort, missing the warmth, missing what you provided. The second is genuine recognition, and it's far rarer. So if they come back, the question is not, do they miss me now? Of course they will. The cold of the Five of Pentacles guarantees it. The real question is whether anything in them has actually changed, whether they've developed the eyes they didn't have before, or whether they just want to climb back into the warm window now that they're cold. Missing you and being able to truly value you are two completely different things. Don't mistake the first for the second. The cold makes everyone miss the warmth. It doesn't make them capable of recognizing it next time. Next card. Why heaven allowed the test at all okay. Fifth card. And this one shifts the whole frame. Because I don't want you to think this test was about punishing them. It wasn't. It was about freeing you. The card is the Eight of Swords, reversed. And the reversed Eight of Swords is the card of a blindfold finally being removed, of someone walking out of a trap they didn't fully realize they were in, of clarity arriving and chains falling away. And here's the real reason heaven set this test down, loves. It wasn't to test them for their sake. It was to show you the truth, so you could finally be free. Because here's what I suspect was happening before this. You were holding on. You were giving this person the benefit of the doubt, again and again. You were making excuses for the distraction, the restlessness, the not quite showing up. You were telling yourself maybe next time, maybe they'll come around, maybe if I just love them a little better, give it a little more time, they'll finally see me. You were a little bit blindfolded, bound by hope, bound by your own loyalty, unable to see clearly because you didn't want to see clearly. And heaven, in its mercy, set down a test that would give you an answer you couldn't argue with. Because that's the thing about a clear, undeniable failure, it cuts through all the excuses. As long as the question stayed open, do they value me or not? You could keep hoping, keep waiting, keep blindfolded. But when the test was set down and they failed it, clearly, in a way you couldn't explain away, the blindfold came off. You finally got to see. And that seeing, painful as it is the doorway out of the trap. The reversed Eight of Swords is heaven saying, I let them fail so that you could finally stop waiting. I gave you an undeniable answer so you could walk free. Let me put this practically, because it reframes everything. Have you ever stayed too long in a situation, a job, a friendship, a relationship, only because you weren't sure? Because there was just enough ambiguity to keep you hoping? And then something happened that made it undeniable, and as painful as that something was, there was also this strange relief in it. Because finally you knew, and knowing meant you could finally move. That's what this test was for you. It traded your painful uncertainty for a clean, clarifying certainty. Yes, it hurts to see them fail, but that failure is a gift, because it ends the limbo. It hands you the answer you needed in order to stop pouring yourself into a cup with a hole in the bottom. Heaven didn't let them fail to break your heart. Heaven let them fail to free it. Comment, the blindfold came off if you can feel that this failure, painful as it was, actually set you free, that it gave you the clarity you'd been needing to finally stop waiting. Next card. What happens to them now, okay? Sixth card. And this is the practical what comes next for them card. Because a failed test like this has consequences. And I want you to see them clearly so you understand the road they're on. The card is the Five of Pentacles. And the Five of Pentacles is the card of being out in the cold of lack, of feeling shut out, of standing in the snow looking through a lit window at a warmth you no longer have access to. And this is the road your person is now walking. Loves, as a direct consequence of failing the test. Not as a punishment heaven is inflicting, but as the natural result of walking past a harvest. When you fail to value the good thing, you lose access to the good thing. And then you feel its absence. The Five of Pentacles is them, somewhere down the road, standing out in the cold of their own choices, looking back at the warmth they didn't recognize when they had it. That lit window they're looking through? It's the Ten of Cups they fumbled, the life they could have had, the warmth that was theirs to step into, that they walked past because they were too busy scanning the horizon for something better. And there's a particular cruelty to the Five of Pentacles that I want to name, because it's the specific shape their consequence takes. The two figures in this card are out in the snow, struggling, and right beside them is a church window, glowing with warmth and light. The help, the warmth, the refuge is right there. They just can't seem to access it, or they walk past it without seeing it. And that's the haunting precision of what's coming for your person. It's not just that they'll be cold. It's that they'll be cold while the memory of the warmth they refused glows right beside them the whole time. They'll know what they had. They'll be able to picture it perfectly. And that picture, the warmth they walked past, lit up and just out of reach, is going to follow them through the cold season like a second shadow. That's not me wishing it on them. That's simply the natural geometry of failing to value something while you have it. The warmth doesn't disappear from your memory. It just becomes a thing you can see and no longer touch. And I want to be clear-eyed about this, because it's important. This is not you getting revenge, and it's not heaven being cruel. It's just consequence. It's the natural, gravitational result of failing to recognize value. The person who walks past the harvest goes hungry later, not because anyone's punishing them, but because they walked past the harvest. The coldness they're going to feel is simply the shape of the warmth they declined. And here's the part that matters most for you. Their cold season is not your responsibility to fix. You are not required to be the warm window they get to come back to whenever the cold finally teaches them what they lost. Their consequences are theirs to walk through. Your job is to keep walking toward your own warmth, not to leave the door open indefinitely for someone who couldn't see you when you were standing right in front of them. Here's the practical wisdom in this, and it's something I really want you to hold. There is a strong temptation, when you see someone face the consequences of losing you, to rush in and rescue them from it, to soften the cold, to leave the window open, to be there when they finally get it. Resist that, because the cold of the Five of Pentacles is actually the teacher. It's the thing that's finally going to make them understand what they refused to understand when they had you. If you rescue them from the lesson, you rob them of the only thing that could ever change them, and you put yourself right back in the position of being undervalued. Let the cold do its work. It's not your job to be someone's warm window while they slowly learn the lesson your love already tried to teach them for free. Next card. The truth about you that this reveals. Okay. Seventh card. And this turns the lens fully onto you, because this whole reading, ultimately, is not really about their failure. It's about what their failure reveals about your worth. The card is the Queen of Pentacles. And the Queen of Pentacles is abundance embodied, a woman who is grounded, nurturing, generous, self-sufficient, and genuinely valuable. A woman whose presence in someone's life is a tangible gift. And here's what their failure proves about you, loves. You don't fail a test about someone worthless. The very fact that heaven set up an entire test around how this person would treat you tells you something enormous. You were worth testing for. You were the harvest. You were the Ten of Cups on offer. You were the gift this person was being measured by their ability to recognize. The Queen of Pentacles is the confirmation that what you carry, your loyalty, your warmth, your groundedness, your capacity to build something real and lasting with someone is genuinely valuable. Rare even, their failure to see it doesn't diminish it one bit. A blind person failing to admire a sunset says nothing about the sunset. It only says they couldn't see. And I think you need this, because failures like this one have a way of making us doubt ourselves. When someone we care about doesn't choose us, doesn't value us, doesn't rise to meet us, the instinct is to turn the question inward. What's wrong with me? Why wasn't I enough? And the Queen of Pentacles is here to forcefully reject that question. Nothing was wrong with you. You were abundant. You were the kind of woman whose value is so real that the universe literally built a test around it. The problem was never the quality of what you offered. The problem was entirely the quality of their vision, their ability to see and value what was right in front of them. And you cannot, must not, let someone's inability to see you become your belief about your own worth. Here's the practical reframe, and I want it to stick. When a person fails to value you, you actually learn nothing about your value, you learn everything about their capacity to perceive value. Those are completely different data points. A master jeweler and a person who knows nothing about gems can look at the same diamond. One sees a treasure, the other sees a shiny rock. The diamond doesn't change based on who's looking at it. Your person looked at a treasure and saw a shiny rock. And that is their limitation, not the diamond's flaw. So please extract the right lesson here. The lesson is not I need to be more, do more, give more, to finally be worth choosing. The lesson is I am a treasure, and I need to stop offering myself to people who can only see shiny rocks. That's the Queen of Pentacles speaking. Know your value, guard it, and give it only to someone with the eyes to recognize it. Comment I am the treasure if this landed, if you're ready to stop reading someone's failure to see you as a verdict on your worth. Because it never was. Let's pull our final card. Where this leaves you, okay. Last card. After everything the test that was set down, how it was disguised, the reason they failed, what they threw away, why heaven allowed it, what happens to them now, and the truth about your own worth, let's see where this leaves you. The card is the Star. The Star loves, after the hard cards, after the Four of Cups distraction, the Five of Pentacles cold, the failed test and all its weight, the Star is what rises. And that's not an accident, because the Star always follows hardship in the deck. It's the card of hope renewed, of healing after a difficult passage, of faith restored, and a clear, gentle light appearing after a dark stretch. And the fact that this is where your reading lands is heaven's final word to you. This failure was not your ending. It was your clearing. Here's what the Star is telling you. Everything painful in this reading the test, the failure, the loss, it was all in service of this, of getting you to the Star, of clearing away a connection that could never have given you what you deserve, so that something that can has room to arrive. Because here's the truth the Star insists on. You cannot receive the love that's truly meant for you while you're still pouring yourself into the one that isn't. The space has to be cleared first. And this failed test, as much as it hurt, was the clearing. It was heaven making room. It was the universe loving you enough to show you the truth, even when the truth stung. Because a hard truth that frees you is infinitely kinder than a comfortable lie that keeps you stuck. So here's where this leaves you, standing under an open sky, finally clear-eyed, finally free of a connection that was never going to recognize your worth, with your whole capacity for love intact, undiminished, ready to be given to someone who can actually see you. The Star promises that the love you carry is not wasted just because one person couldn't receive it. It's still in you. It's still yours to give. And now it's free from a person who failed the test, of seeing it to flow towards someone who will pass that test without even realizing it was a test. Because recognizing your worth will be the most natural thing in the world to them. That's what the Star is pointing toward, not the loss behind you. The clear, hopeful, open sky ahead. And I want to close on the most healing thing the Star has to offer, because I think you need it. The Star, in its old imagery, shows a woman gently pouring water, replenishing the earth, refilling the waters after a long, depleting season. And what that says to me, for you, is this. It's time for you to be poured back into. For so long in this connection, you were the one giving, tending, watering, faithfully keeping the harvest alive, pouring yourself out towards someone who couldn't receive it. The Star is the turning of that tide. It's the season where the energy you poured out for so long starts flowing back to you, where you stop being the only one tending and start being tended, where the faithfulness you gave so freely finally gets returned by life, by the right people, eventually by the right person. You've earned that. You spent a long season as the giver in a connection that couldn't reciprocate. The star says that season is ending, and a new one where your love is met, matched, and returned is beginning. The failed test didn't drain you dry. It cleared the way for you to finally be filled. What this test was really teaching you before I bring this all together, I want to turn something around. Because I think there's a layer here that most people miss. And it's the layer that turns this from a sad reading into a genuinely transformative one. We've talked the whole time about the tests they failed, but here's something my grandfather understood that took me years to catch. When life sets down a test in front of one person, it's almost always teaching two people at once. They were being tested on whether they could recognize your worth, but you were being tested too on whether you could finally recognize their incapacity and act on it. And I don't want you to fail your half of the test the way they failed theirs. Here's what I mean. There's a pattern that loyal, loving, faithful people fall into, and you may know it intimately. We keep regrading people who already failed. We give the test again and again and again. We tell ourselves, well, maybe that time didn't count. Maybe they were stressed. Maybe next time will be different. And we keep handing the same person the same test, hoping that this time they'll pass long after they've shown us, clearly and repeatedly, that they can't. And every time we do that, we're failing our own test, the one life is giving us, the test of whether we can believe people when they show us who they are. So this reading is asking something of you, gently but seriously. It's asking you to accept the result, to let the failed test be a failed test, to stop re-administering it, stop grading on a curve, stop hoping the next attempt will come back different. Because here's the practical truth. People very rarely fail a test of recognition once and then suddenly develop the eyes to see. The Four of Cups, restlessness. The inability to value what's present that's not a one-time mistake. It's a pattern, a way of moving through the world. Giving them the test a fifth and sixth and seventh time won't change the result. It'll just keep you stuck, re-pouring your treasure into the same person who already showed you they can't see it. Let me put it as plainly as I can, because it's the most important practical takeaway in this whole reading. The test was for them. The lesson was for you. And the lesson is, believe people the first time they show you who they are. Don't make the universe keep repeating the demonstration because you didn't want to accept what you saw. The kindest, wisest, most self-respecting thing you can do with a clear failure is to let it be clear to stop reaching for reasons it might not mean what it obviously means. That's how you pass your half of the test. That's how you walk free instead of staying in the loop. They failed the test of seeing you. Don't fail the test of seeing them. Bringing it all together, so let me gather this whole thing into one piece for you. Because it was a heavy reading, and I want you walking away holding the full meaning of it. We opened with the Seven of Pentacles, the test itself. A test of recognition, where you were the faithfully tended harvest and the only question was whether this person had the eyes to value what you'd grown. The Page of Pentacles showed us how the test was disguised not as a grand, dramatic crossroads, but as a small, ordinary, easily overlooked moment. Because character is always revealed in the small moments where people can't perform. The Four of Cups named the exact reason they failed not cruelty, but a chronic restlessness. An inability to see the good thing right in front of them, because they were too busy scanning the horizon for a more that doesn't exist. And the Ten of Cups revealed what they actually forfeited. Not a small thing, but the whole warm, lasting, fulfilling future that was theirs to build with you, if only they'd seen you clearly. The reversed Eight of Swords reframed the entire test. It wasn't to punish them. It was to free you, to take the blindfold off, to trade your painful uncertainty for a clarifying certainty so you could finally stop waiting. The Five of Pentacles showed the road. They're now on the natural cold of consequence, the lit window they'll look back through, and the reminder that their cold season is not yours to fix. The Queen of Pentacles delivered the truth about you that you are worth building a test around, that you are a genuine treasure, and that their failure to see it reveals their limited vision, not your limited worth. And the star closed it all in renewed hope, the promise that this failure was a clearing, not an ending, making room for a love that can actually recognize the gift you are. So here's what I want you to carry out of this reading. Loves, I know it's a hard one. I know that hearing someone fail to test about you, even when you sensed it coming, carries its own particular grief. But I need you to hear the deeper kindness in it. Heaven did not let this person fail in order to hurt you. Heaven let them fail in order to show you, to give you, finally, the clear and undeniable answer you needed in order to stop waiting for someone who was never going to choose you the way you deserve to be chosen. That clarity is a gift, even when it arrives wrapped in disappointment. Because the alternative, staying blindfolded, staying hopeful, staying stuck, pouring your treasure into someone who could only see a shiny rock that would have cost you so much more, for so much longer. Now, because I always want to keep you grounded, let me add the honest, practical note. The failure of their test does not require you to slam any doors with bitterness. And it doesn't require you to spend one more minute building a case against them in your head. The cleanest way to walk through the stars' open sky is to simply let the truth be the truth they couldn't see you. And that's information, not an insult, and then turn gently toward your own life. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to be the cold window they're shut out of. You just have to stop offering your treasure to someone who proved they can't recognize it, and start carrying it toward the open sky where someone eventually will. That's not revenge. That's not even closure, exactly. It's just wisdom. It's you finally believing your grandfather or mine when the lesson says, life set down a quiet test. They showed you who they are, and now you know. And knowing, painful as it is the thing that finally sets you free. That's the reading, my loves. A sober one, an honest one, but I think one of the most freeing ones I've done. Because there's nothing more liberating than finally seeing someone clearly and realizing their failure to choose you was never a measure of your worth. If this resonated, if you felt that quiet recognition, that, oh, that's exactly what happened, lands somewhere deep, please give this video a like on your way out. It genuinely helps these readings reach the people who need to hear that being unchosen by the wrong person is not the same as being unworthy. And subscribe to Elena Tarot if you haven't yet, because honest, clarifying readings like this are exactly what I'm here for. And I've got so many more coming. Tell me in the comments which card spoke to you most. Was it the disguised test? The reason they failed? The truth that you're the treasure? I read every single one, and what you choose tells me exactly where you are in your own clearing. And if you already know exactly who failed this test, you don't even have to name them. Just drop one single white star for the clean, clear sky that's opening up ahead of you now. Thank you for being here with me today, and thank you for being the kind of soul who loves so faithfully that the universe builds tests around your worth. Don't let one person's failure to see you ever convince you that you were anything less than the treasure you are. You were always the harvest. You were always the gift. They just didn't have the eyes, and that was never, ever your fault. Walk toward your open sky. I'll see you in the next one.